Adrian Zens, a senior fellow in China Studies at the Victims of Communist Memorial Foundation. Thank you very much indeed for agreeing to speak to us. Let me start by asking you how your report was compiled and who the main witnesses are.
My report was compiled based on Chinese government documents. Firstly, high-level documents of the Xinjiang Regional Health Commission, then lower prefectural and county documents, family planning budgets, reports, policy documents from government websites. And this was complemented by extensive witness testimonies.
And what exactly did the witnesses tell you? Did everything they say corroborate?
Yes, there's very close alignment between witness statements and policy. Sometimes there are slight differences in how policy is enforced in a particular county, but the overall policy and system is the same. There are quote-unquote free sterilization surgery being offered. There are punishments of internment in internment camps who violate birth control policies. And there's the forced and mandatory insertion of intrauterine contraceptive devices into women, with the region having a target for 2019 of implanting intrusive birth control into women, into over 80% of women in the region, but some minority regions have higher rates.
But one of the arguments that Beijing gave when it dismissed all of these reports and all of these ideas as fake news, if you like, they said, if this is true, why has the population of Uyghurs in Western Xinjiang province increased twofold during the course of the last 40 years? How do you rebut that argument?
This is a very poor false equivalence, because it is, of course, true that Uyghur birth rates have been among the highest in the country for the last decades. Even during the horrific time of the Cultural Revolution, Uyghur birth rates remained high and stable. This means that the most recent reversal is all the more drastic, all the more horrific, and all the more unprecedented. Uyghur birth rates started to decline dramatically in 2017 and 18 and have further declined in 2019. And the population growth target of a Uyghur prefecture for 2020 is barely above zero.
This is very close to being genocide. In fact, some would say this is genocide. What's your take on that?
This is complicated. China is not trying to fully eradicate the Uyghur people. It is trying to contain them and to control them and to assimilate them. Now, in this, Beijing is now moving into territory that meets very clearly one of the 5 criteria for genocide set out by the United Nations, naming the suppression of births. Therefore, we now need to re-evaluate the situation, because Beijing's practices in Xinjiang are partially moving into a territory of committing an actual genocide.
And what's China said about your report that struck you the most? Have they dismissed it outright, or have they said that have they admitted that elements of your report are in fact factually accurate even by their standards?
Beijing has always been careful to avoid any direct comment on any specifics of my research, because they know if they did so, they would get into deep trouble. Beijing's only strategy is to outright dismiss the report or to attack me as a person or my motivation. If they started to talk details, they would get in deep trouble, because they would be having to contradict their own documents.
And just lastly, I'm wondering about how you compiled your report. Was any of it done on the ground by you? Did you go to Western China? Did you visit Xinjiang province? And more importantly, I'm curious to know about these detention camps, because we hear a lot about them. Not many people have seen them. Not many people have been in them and come out and said much about them. I'm just wondering what you found out about those specifically as well.
Well, I think you would be surprised by the number of people who actually have been in them and have come out of them and have talked about their horrific experiences. We have a growing and significant body of witness accounts, both of internment and of the treatment that people experience in the open-air police state that we're looking at here. But you're quite right to say that the Chinese authorities make it impossible to enter Xinjiang and to conduct a proper investigation without any deterrence or disturbing. Reporters and even academics who have tried to do so have been harassed, followed, and even detained. Therefore, we rely on external data. We rely on government documents, on government reports, on satellite analysis, because Beijing cannot manipulate satellite images.